And he's live, and he's subtly testing the microphone as he goes because I couldn't get the microphone to work earlier, so now I'm kind of just tweaking with my settings as we speak, and I'm going to have to remember to look this way instead of my normal that way because I have the camera on this side tonight. Getting a little better bang for my buck with this camera. And we have our first victim. Tug, the unapologetic geek, is with us. Says hi, Thrasher. Zuplik says, "Come on, people, now smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Try to love one another right now. Peace, bro. Peace, love, and granola. Actually, hold the granola. But anyway, 2 down, several more to go. And it's really tough when your video screen is on this side and the camera's here. So I'm trying to look right into the camera, but the urge, I'm a narcissist. So the urge to look at my own visage is becoming more than I can actually put up with. But I will fight for you fine folks. Lance Chafin says, "Hiya, Thrash." Zuplik says, "Gone are the days of smog and fog. One could hope." Trey the Rosmeyer says, "Hi, Robert." And hello to you too. Tug says, "Hey, oh, and Lance." Gary Carpenter's with us. Bah humbug, everyone. A Valentine's Day denier. Keep wagging the flags of dissent. Daryl Johnson, brother from another Daryl, is in the house. Keith E says, "Yo, yo, yo," and a yo, yo, yo to you too. Sean Innes says, "Get a mirror like a narcissus." Too funny. Or at least a flowing stream. People are pouring in now. Speaking of streams, Jimmy Neutron says, "Hey, Thrash, what's up?" Neutron John, so good to see you. So good to see you. Oh, and I don't know if you guys caught it. I have a special edition trivia game tonight, by the way. It's going to be, shall we say, great love interests, but in the sci fi horror genre. Daily Danny Staten says, "Greetings from here." Sean Innes says, "Well, didn't think you could divert a stream into the stream." I probably could. I'd probably get electrocuted and I could do without that. Oh, Lance Chapin says, "Feeling a lot better, folks. Thank you." So, we've been keeping on top of that. Poor Lance has been very under the weather, but I'm glad you're feeling better. Zublik says, "Everything is crystal clear." Oh, and by the way, and I learned this from both Pat and Emily, I'm going to move the mic around. As I'm moving it, are you getting different sound vibrations? I'm not trying to tamper with success. If that worked, it means I am using this good mic and not this crappy mic over here, which I won't know until I go into the replay. Terrell Eugene Bellinger or Teb says, "Hello, Bob, aka Thrash. Hope you're having a great Valentine's Day." I did actually. The missus had to work, but she came home, had a nice dinner. She's sort of lounging now. Gave me permission to be with you folks, but we've had our little Valentine's Day gift giving. By the way, I gave her some stuff for a nice spa day, and a great big bag of M&Ms and a balloon. It's her weakness. M&Ms, not balloons. You got to be careful with balloons these days. Tug says, "I'm happily married and still don't like V-Day." Victory in Europe Day? Really? "A girl broke my heart on this day in my youth." Same page club. "Thankfully, my wife doesn't celebrate it either." That's a great thing about broken hearts. You put them together and you get a mended heart. I don't know. The pieces are all there. You guys put it together. I can't do everything for you. Let's see. Oh, sounds fine. Good enough for me. Terrell Johnson says, "Not going to bother." Terrell. Let's just see. Volume is great, Dan. Good enough for me, because your volume is always spot on. Zerblick says, "Beware the green M&Ms." I remember that from middle school. Sean Innes says, "Retro," or at retro. Uh, hashtag please Lance win tomorrow, LOL. Oh, he wants Lance to win tomorrow. Yes, while we're on the subject, at 8:30 tomorrow night, Dave Sundstrom is having one of his get-togethers. All welcome, and I believe he's talking about the legendary comic genius Steve Martin. Can't wait, can't wait. I'll be there at 8:30. I'm not doing anything tomorrow night so as to not stomp on his toes. Lynch even says two girls like me at the same time. That could be fun. It could also be dangerous. Ask me how I know. Keithy says, I just hit the thumbs up in the lobby. It's pretty quiet out there. Is that a hint? Well, 13 in the house and 8 likes. That's pretty good. We can do better. Liz Chafin says, hiya, Caroline. Caroline must be somewhere. I must have missed her. If Caroline, if I missed your comment, please forgive me. But hello and welcome. Danny Staten has given us a link. He's our link master. He's our Lancelot link. He gave us a link to Dave Sundstrom's channel. Neutron John says, as you know, I'm seeing a therapist. I followed her advice to go to a hospital to get better care than she can provide, and they tried to keep me. I managed to get out, so I'm changing my therapist. Very glad you escaped, by the way. That's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I'm glad you were able to get out. I would see a new therapist. And, well, don't get me started, but like, wow, man. Lynn Stevens says, watch my bloody. I'm guessing it's my bloody Valentine, by the way. They're playing at a local theater this weekend. What else we get going on here? Oh, yes, my bloody Valentine. I guessed correctly. Ziplik says, I hope things go well for you, Neutron John. Me too, by the way. And that was not cool. Life isn't stressful enough without well meaning but overreach stepping therapists trying to have you committed. That's not cool. I'm sorry. I have a problem with that. Gary Cameron says, I just finished watching the original Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, the animated one from the 70s. If I remember correctly, that was pretty slick, but I haven't seen that since I was a kid. Teb says, Thresh, do you remember when the NBA great Michael Jordan did an anti-drug PSA for McDonald's where he said, stop it, get some help? I don't. I remember a Larry Bird ad for McDonald's, but he was just eating a Big Mac. He was also in, there was an incredibly cool ad, I want to say, for Chardon jeans. And it was this really, really awesome arcade. It was long hallways with arcade games on both sides, and down the middle was a lane for, if you remember, roller skating waitresses. Waitresses on roller skates would skate down with concession. And I remember as like a 12, 13-year old, when I saw this, I go, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. I'm going to build an arcade that has waitresses skating around giving you refreshments. Sadly, the arcade collapsed before such a dream could be recognized. But, in 1979, it seemed like a good idea. What great ideas have you guys had in your youth that would be hopelessly outdated these days? I bet there's a lot of them. I seem to have been pontificating myself into a corner. No, I'm actually not too far off. Karen Lee Maloney, Karen Lee Maloney is here, and she says hello to Superplex Lance et al. And again, hello to you, Karen Lee. And just finished watching. Game Captain says I just finished watching the Muppets 30th anniversary. Crazy. Jimmy Neutron says I got Pac-Man fever, Pac-Man fever. Big Guys 45 is here and says I'm here. Thus, how I know he's here. Darrell John says, please hit the like button. Yes, of course. Zublik says, you didn't want to be a fireman, T-Pawns. Don't like heat. Lance Chafin says, Jimmy Buckner and Garcia. Big Guys 45 says, tried to get to the 1,000K, but yeah, the GD unsub glitch ain't gonna help me get there. Ongoing problem, I know, I know. I'm still at, like, hovering around 240. Danny Staten says South Carolina still has giant arcades in the malls. We still have some arcades here, but I remember well, you might still have big arcades, but I remember the old school ones with, Pac-Man and, uh, Joust and Defender and, Space Invaders, all those good games. The quarter gobblers, you know? Big guy says I lost two more over the last couple of days. That's crazy. Tug says The Bloody Judge is a great trashy Italian horror film starring Christopher Lee. The Bloody Judge. Why is that ringing a bell? John Collins is with us. John, hey John, I sent you a Facebook message the other day. Did you get it? But John Collins says Bob. He's our man. Uh, monetize this grand old chap. What he said. Danny Staten has sent a link for Big Guys. Thank you. That's very nice of you. Gary Cameron says, I don't like all that smoke either. Danny Staten gives us a link to Tug. It goes without saying, but thank you. Big Guy says, I hate the fact that YouTube just apparently removes new followers from your channel. If they're bots or, shall we say, unethically generated, they'll remove them. I don't know what they do to determine that, but Lynn Chafin says, "Where's Emily and Cindy?" Excellent question. And Lisa Fields, excellent question. We'll give it a few minutes before we start the quiz. Big Guy says, "Thanks as always, Denny, and everyone else over here." Zublik says, "I remember Paradise Park, which was was so big in New York City that they held a Little Miss America contest. That's crazy." Jimmy Neutron says, "People confused just because it's bloody and disgusting doesn't necessarily make it horror." It's a pretty safe bet though, but yeah, you're right, not necessarily. Tug says, Lance, they have to wait to make an entrance. Yes, I can certainly see that. Denny Staten says, the arcade at Anderson Mall has a whole section of about 100 classic old games, Centipede, Defender, Pac-Man, and such. That is crazy. I have Centipede myself in the bridge. It's a dual it's a half size console game. It's Centipede and Missile Command. My wife got it for me years ago. James Dye says hello everyone. James, so glad you can make it to the party. Big Guys 45 says anybody here ever watch the 2007 Eddie Murphy cringe comedy Norbit? LMFAO. Such a wacky, stupid movie. I remember Norbit. I don't remember anything about it, but I do remember it many years ago. Zublik says Bloody and Valentine's Day shouldn't ordinarily mix. That's why it was such a innovative 80s slasher film. Teb says, I'm ready for the quiz. Teb, we're all ready. Couple more minutes. We're hoping that Emily and Cindy D and maybe a couple others show up. I like to get it to about 20 before I start the trivia game. We're still at 13. So give me just a couple of minutes, bro, and you shan't be disappointed. Big Guys 45 says they remove users that Google doesn't recognize yet because they're all a bunch of dumbasses. Ouch. Apparently, LOL. Sigh, stupid people and stupid companies sigh. Tug says could always be a surgery video, I guess. I could. Yeah, no. Some of those are pretty hairy. Sean Innes says Jimmy Neutron Army of Darkness comedy love story. Give me some sugar, baby. You have a very valid point. Zublik says Terrell T. Pons' quizzes are so hard that even Einstein lost. I made mine intentionally. If not easy, I made it mainstream for tonight. Big Guns 45 says, anybody here remember 1992's BB's Kids? I didn't watch it, but I do remember. Danny Staten says, their old machines still only cost a quarter to play the old ones. Wow, that's amazing. That's I gotta come down to visit you sometime and bring a sack full of quarters. Keith E says, "Hey Thrash," and jumped off the page. Denny never gives a link for your channel. LOL. I'm here so people can find here where it is on here since they're already here. Good point. Yeah, very simple to send a link to this channel because people are already here. Jamel Johnson says there are a few of you that have not hit the like button, so now please. Good point. Zulik says, let's hope they don't arrive. Sean Ennis says, Jimmy Neutron lots. If Gore, if Army of Darkness, it's a trick. Get an axe. Gary Carpenter says, I'll send you some later. Looking forward to it, Gary. Looking forward to it. Tug says, whoa, haven't thought about BB's Kids in years, big guy. Big guy says, Lance, still crap, but I'm almost at 1,000, although I lost 2 in the past couple of little days. Sad madness. Tracy Rothmeyer says, trying to stay awake. Had a long, I'm guessing that was day. Danny Staten says, it's Valentine's Day, dude. Most people have a life, of course, not me. Yeah, I'm guessing a few people may not show up, but let's give them a few more minutes. Big guy says, I get that barefoot feeling drinking Mountain Dew. Keith E says, hi, Lance. The scream's moving too fast for me tonight. Screams moving too fast for me tonight. Lance Chafin says, sorry, 45. You will get there. You certainly will. I'm going to scroll down. Oh, John Bernstein is in the house. Just dropped by to say hi. Have a woman to romance. Trust me, more than understand. I would skip my show. Now, where's my air pump? Big Guys 45 says, barefootin', da-da, da-da-da, barefootin', da-da, da-da-da. Was it Mr. Clean? Or Spick and Span? The floor cleaner had that song, barefootin'. Chafin says, the other ladies, ARW. Dennis Gaten says, BRB phone at 4%. Tug says, mixing a holiday with horror can be a good way to stomp on sacred ground, so to speak. It's usually just exploitative, though. Not that I don't love me some exploitative horror. While we're on the subject, Tug and I and ENC are going to be doing. Now, honest to God, I can't recall if he's going to go live tomorrow or if we're going to record. He's going to post it later. But tomorrow we're putting together our MST3K podcast chat. Be looking for that not too distant future. I'm sure there's a lot of MST3K fans out there. I know Mike Silva definitely is. But we're going to be doing that tomorrow, and I promise it will not run in conflict with Dave Sundstrom's. Lance Javen says the other ladies are out on the big night being romantic. Well, then we shan't wait for them any longer. Gary Cameron says that's like mixing Easter with horror together. Yuck. BK on the air is here and with us. Says hello, Thrash, and everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to you. Danny State, when you get back, please send a link to BK on the air. Not that you don't already know. And BK, it is wonderful to see you. And by the way, I love those vintage commercials you were posting this past week, and those were absolutely amazing. I get so nostalgic from those commercials. Teb says, Thrash, what are some of your favorite TV shows or films with an all-black cast? Shows What's Happening was great. Good Times. One of my favorites was The Jeffersons, but Mr. Willis wasn't black because you can't call it an all-black cast. There's always a few people in the cast who aren't black. Like, for example, I love Dead Presidents. But again, there were a few Caucasians in that, if you count it. But in fact, I have one coming up in a minute. So you know what? Hold that thought. I want to give the game away. You made me think of another one. Let's just see. Jimmy Neutron says, anyone seen wrestler Goldberg in that horrible Christmas movie? I forgot the name. but he plays an evil Santa. I have not. So Blake says message retracted. The message retracted to you too. Tug says, I'm not the world's most well versed MSC3K fan, but I can tap dance with Thrash and Ian. You sure can. Trey Throws Myers says, Hubs and I are as romantic as a couple of people who have been together for over 20 years plus can be. I more than understand. Let's just see. Charlie says Black Dynamite was funny. Zublik says, I think they were confusing Valentine's Day with Jeffrey Dahmer's idea of romance. Ew. Uh, Tritharos Myers says, that's my mama. You know, I can't think of the man's name. He played the bartender in Love Boat. He was in That's My Mama. Great show, great show. Tug says Scariest Bunny Rabbit, Twilight Zone, the movie. Yeah, that was Dante, wasn't it? I believe. Did the effects in that one? Gary Cameron says, I just love those old commercials. John Burton says, I've been married for 32 years. You beat me, man. We put off Valentine's Day to take advantage of the senior special on the 15th to save money and not have to talk to each other. Now, there's a married couple. Gary Carpenter says Severin Son and 227. John Burnton says also we get a day old roses for 70% off. I'm saving money for a hooker. She's saving hers for a hitman, but I'm bummed. I'll just see. Ted Lang, thank you. Was Love Boat bartender Ted Lang. Thank you very much. I knew. In fact, I just saw a behind the scenes for the making of the Love Boat, and he featured prevalently in that. Danny says another like. He's back. And Isaac was the character's name. Yes, Isaac was the character's name. And Lance Craven says Ted Lang was the bartender from Love Boat. Um, you know what? Since Dan's back, we know the other ladies aren't getting here. I think we should start the trivia game. What do you guys think? Yeah, Bob. Yeah, start the trivia game. Are you sure you want to start the trivia game? Yeah, please, the trivia game. Okay, the trivia game it is. And this is going to be science fiction and horror themed. Name the romantic counterpart. And I'm going to start with it's 2 parts of 5 in this one, so I'm just going to start randomly. The first one I'm going to give you is from the film King Kong. Ann Darrow. Who was Ann Darrow's featured love interest in the 1933 film King Kong? And there's actually 2 applicable answers. If you want bonus credit, give me both. Oh, Wajimeen snuck in at some point. Hi, Wajimeen. Great to see you. Dan, do the honors. Please give Daryl Johnson, Kong. Very good. Zublik says Kong. Excellent. Dan, please a link to Wajimeen's channel, please. Kong. Can anyone get the second? I'll give you another idea for anyone a lot of people are saying Kong is good, and I will accept that. There's actually one more, and I want to see if anyone else can get it. Tug says the tall, dark, and handsome leading man. Kong, of course. Yeah. Zublik says the captain's mate. I will accept that. The character's name was Jack Driscoll. First mate, Jack Driscoll was the other one. But a bunch of people got this first one, so... Oh, and you're welcome, what do you mean? So far, we're after a pretty good start. 1972's blaxploitation horror film Blackula. Speaking of really cool films that have a near all black cast, in the film Blackula, the main character Blackula, otherwise known as Prince Mamuwalde, who is his principal romantic interest. Yes, who is the principal romantic interest of Blackula in the film Blackula? Oh, Doug says Driscoll. Duh. It's quite all right. The last film I saw in the theaters while they were literally, not figuratively, literally shutting the theaters down due to the COVID shutdown in Massachusetts. Remember, we got hit like before about 47 of the other states got hit. It was us, New York, and New Jersey, I think it was. But I was actually in the theaters when they shut them down. I was watching a Fathom event for King Kong. They let that showing finish, but as we were leaving, they had already shut the place up. They were basically just hustling people out. So there was no 7 o'clock show that night. Um, Lola Falana, excellent guess. Pam Greer, Pam something. Wonderful, wonderful guesses. Cleopatra Jones, love it. Dan says the reincarnated chick. That's actually the closest proper response. You did a post on Blackula once, didn't you, Dan? If I remember correctly. Um, ooh, Teb got both of them. Yes, Tina and Luva, played by 70s and 80s ravishing beauty, Vonetta McGee. She actually comes up a little bit later, believe it or not. She's in another film that I love. But yes, she played Tina and Luva, and that's the correct answers. Tug says Luva, I think. Yes, it's Luva was his wife who died in the 1800s. When he's reawakened, he sees Tina and believes she's the reincarnation of his wife, Luva. Um, but anyway, if you mentioned either one of them, because effectively they're the same person, I shall give it to you. So I shall move on to the next question. Dan says, like I said, the reincarnated chick. Yes, Dan, I gave you full credit for that one. Ziplik says, never saw Blackula. Check it out. It's amazing. It's amazing. In Creature from the Black Lagoon, Kay's principal romantic interest is whom? What character is Kay's principal romantic interest in Creature from the Black Lagoon? This ought to be good. Daryl says, haven't seen that movie in decades. Gary Carver says, Z, it's a white version of Dracula. You mean it's a black version of Dracula? Daily Dan says, Dr. Goof. Daryl John says, the creature. Oh, you know what? The Gilman. All right, I'm going to give you that one. Tug says, obviously, the creature. Apparently, we have a lot of. I almost did it again, didn't I? Apparently, I have a lot of Guillermo del Toro fans in the audience because when he was conceptualizing Shape of Water, he said that he was thinking of The Creature of the Black Lagoon as a romantic film. But yes, I will accept The Creature, and a lot of you people have said it. Oh, Zuperlex, he actually has the other one. Well, close it. David. David is Dr. Reed. Yes, Dr. David Reed. So yeah, let's just see who got it. Well, a lot of people have the creature. Gary, Daryl, Dan, Tug, Zuplex, Gary. John Burton says Adrienne Barbeau is all I remember. She was in Swamp Thing or The Fog. Actually, she did a lot of horror movies now that I think of it. But no, she was not in The Creature from the Black Lagoon. But yeah, Dr. David Reed and the Gilman are the correct responses. And we skip ahead to 1984's quintessential 80s film, Repo Man. Main character Otto. And there are technically 3 love interests in that. So tell me, as many as you can, in 80s cult, sci-fi, action, punk rocker, musical, just all around 80s awesome movie, Repo Man, main character Otto, name as many of the triumvirate of love interests as he has in the film. Darrell Johnson says never saw it. I will give you a hall pass on that one. Caroline. I keep saying Caroline. Karen Lee is saying goodbye. Karen Lee, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night. I'm glad you could stop in. Take care. Peace. Happy Valentine's Day. Zublik says the aliens, close but no cigar. Dan says the aliens, again, close but no cigar. A lot of people saying good night. Karen Lee, thank you for joining us. Again. Tug actually got one. Leela. Yes, Leela is one. So because Emilio Estevez, he played Otto, and narcissistic as he is, I don't think Emilio Estevez is in love with himself. Shunda says Emilio Estevez and Harry Dean Stanton, more of a bromance, not a romantic interest. Music, movies, and more with Brian is here. Music, movies, and more with Brian. So glad you could stop by. Dan, please give a link to music, movies, and more with Brian. He's putting out some great work. Memorial videos for celebrities that we've lost and birthday videos that have just been some really entertaining stuff. And I'm so glad you could make it. We're almost halfway through a trivia quiz that I'm doing tonight. It's Valentine's Day themed, as you've probably deduced. And this question is 80s sci-fi action movie Repo Man. Who were Otto's romantic interests? There were three of them. We've already gotten Leela, and there were two more. Zublik says the car. Dilly Den says, how about the old guy Miller? No. Teb says Leela was played by Olivia Brosh, former child actress from the 70s and 80s. Wasn't she in Out of the Blue? That very, 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 very short-lived spin-off of Mork and Mindy about an angel who becomes a manservant to a family. It's sort of like Mr. Belvedere if Mr. Belvedere was an angel. Did I imagine all this? if I did, please correct me. Shannon says, haven't seen these movies in a long, long time. Okay. Here we go. Teb says Marlene and Debbie. Yes, Debbie was the girl he's dating in the beginning. The girl who leaves him for his best friend who just gets out of juvie. One who looks, guys, who plays him, his name is Dick Rude. He was in a couple of other Alex Cox movies and is also in Night of the Comet. He looks so much like my late son-in-law, God rest. It is crazy. It's like when I watch Reaper Man, I do like double takes. He looks so much like my boy. It's nuts. But anyway, that's another story. Debbie and Marlene, also played by Vanessa McGee, is the woman who runs the desk in the repo shop he works at, and Otto has a mad, mad, mad crush on her. And I will now move on. Oh, Dan, thank you very much for putting up those links. Oh, and wow, very, very, very good. Tug, did you say Vanessa McGee? I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I was too busy saying goodnight to people and correcting people who were deliberately giving me the wrong answer, which is half the fun of these, apparently. And yes, Shannon says Vanessa McGee was also in Repo Man. Yes, she was. She played Marlene. But yes, Tug, I'll give it to you. So yes, those of you who got Vanessa McGee or Marlene, that is also correct. Jimmy Neutron says, mentally, I'm out of it. They had to paint my apartment, so I had to get the place ready at the same time. I went to the hospital with all the other problems, so I'm frazzled now and can't play along today. Don't worry. If you want to just sort of meditate, don't worry. Daryl Jones says, I'm lost. Was there a question? Yeah, I'll repeat the question one more time. Apparently, the answers are filling in, and if you got it, I didn't recognize you giving the right answer. Give yourself the credit. But it was the '80s film Repo Man. The main character's name was Otto, and who were his love interests? And a lot of people got it. But I shall now move on to the next question to avoid further confusion. And Dan's given a link to his channel. Rock on. Doug says, just sit back and relax, Jimmy. It's all good. Yeah, you can just basically let art flow over you, as they say in The Big Chill. Okay, last of part one, Logan's Run. Who is the principal love interest of Logan 5? A lot of people on my channel are a fan of her, so I know a lot of people are going to get this one, but I'll give it a minute or two. Daryl John says Logan. Logan was in love with Logan. I've met Michael York. You're not far off. Sean Innes for the win. Jenny Argater. John Cullen says, Bob, I sent you the poem. Oh, thank you. So you got my message. Good. I sent you the poem, and your picture and sound are wonderful. No, John, you are wonderful. And I'll read the poem later on. Thank you so much for sending it to me again. Dilly Dan says the android left my box. Proteins from the sea. Jenny Argater. Yes, Jenny Argater. Very good. So let's see. So far, Sean's got it. Zuplex got it. Tugs got it. Teb has her character's name, Jessica 6. Oh, did you notice, by the way, I made Logan 5, question 5, by the way? Brian says, Dan, I subscribed. Excellent. Tug. Oh, he qualifies as a right, Teb. Jessica 6. I'll accept either or, but if you want to put both, that's wonderful. Tug says, I love her so much. She gives me warm feelings. Oh, that's so sweet. Jimmy Neutron says, I haven't read Logan Run in a long, long time. Gary Graham says, Jessica. Sean says, I love Jenny Argater in Logan's Run and American Werewolf in London. Was happy to see her in the Avengers movies too. I loved her in Walkabout. Anybody remember Walkabout, the Australian flick? Oh, thanks, Dan, for sending us another link. Help a new guy out. Definitely. Keith E says, Thrasher, are you giving a free balloon ride to anyone who won the contest? Ooh, bad karma. Daryl Jones says, haven't seen that movie in mega years. Zublik says, there are bodies lying everywhere. Wow, dark. Diligent says, Dave shared my video. He shared one of mine too. I was so proud. Zuplik says, Jenny was in Walkabout. She sure was. Gary Garber says, Keith, you ain't getting me in no balloon. Yeah, me neither. John Britton says, it's not Farrah Fawcett. She was in that movie. She had a walk out in the movie. She plays the assistant to the plastic surgeon. But no, she wasn't the love interest. She actually got that movie before she became big, and then when they re-released that film, it was like, what a coup! They got Farrah Fawcett. No, they got her before she was a big star. Big Guy says, I'm back here. Feel free to follow if you haven't yet, and hopefully my subs are actually stay out this time. Bummer if they won't. Sadness and madness too true. Tug says, well, Super predicted the future. Okay, I think I'm going to go on now to the next part. This is part 2 of the quiz, and this one is going to be a fun one. This one is pure Star Trek. I know I have at least a couple of Star Trek fans on my channel, so pure Star Trek. And all you got to do is you match the person I mentioned with the corresponding principal character. You follow? I'll give a guest star's name, and you tell me which principal character they were somehow romantically involved with. You don't have to tell the whole backstory, just let me know who the principal is. The first one, Nancy Crater. Nancy Crater had been at one time romantically involved with what Star Trek principal character? I'll just see here. The book says, watch out for F-22s. Yeah, no kidding. John Collins says, Bob, whom is the best all-time female lead in creature feature film? Mara Corday, maybe? John Burton says she was also in Logan's Run. She sure was. Dan says, greetings, new guy. Jimmy Neutron says, has anyone read the book, Do Androids Dream Electric Sheep? I did, but that was like 30 years ago. Great book, though. It's the one that, of course, they based Blade Runner on. John Brennan says Logan. Zabilik says Adrienne Barbeau. People love Adrienne Barbeau. Tug says all those cats in the Capitol building were the true love interest. Zublik says Sulu. No, I'm sorry. Sulu is incorrect. Dan says there's your 200 subscribed new guy. That's very, very kind of you, Daily Beast. Another like. Daryl John says Kirk. Sorry, not this time. Usually it is Kirk, but not in this case. Jimmy Neutron says the Gorn. Love it. But here today, Gorn tomorrow. Sean Innes for the win. Yes, it's McCoy's old girlfriend. Yes. Nancy Crater was in The Man Trap. It was the husband-wife archaeological team, but instead of Nancy Crater, it's actually the Salt Vampire. And yes, Nancy Crater played the Salt Vampire, but the real Nancy Crater was Dr. McCoy's love interest. Okay, next one. Leela Kalomi. Who is Leela Kalomi romantically involved with at one point? A lot of people guessing Kirk. Yeah, Kirk is like the gimme. Kirk is like guessing B in bingo. It's Gary Gerber says love my Corday. Usually it's Kirk, but in this case, no. Shannon says the salt sucking monster. It's actually known in lore as the salt vampire, and supposedly that's not canon. That's what the fans labeled it. And since it was never actually labeled, they left it. But it's one of the few monsters in Star Trek that is not labeled and given a proper name. Oh, a Zupalex for the win. Spock. Yes, Spock. Got it. Yeah, Sean Ennis, Spock's girlfriend. Jimmy Neutron guesses the Gorn again. Love it. Tug says, Leela can what? You? Teb says, Scott, yes. That's the one. Oh, it's based on the Lotus Eaters. It's the planet with the radiation. I wrote it down, but it's on my separate note sheet. They're those like triffid-like things, and they spray you with spores so you can survive the radiation, but it causes you to be high all the time. And while on the planet, Spock falls in love with a really cute blonde and says at the end, for the first time in my life, I was happy. But yeah, Spock is Leela Kalomi's love interest. Okay. Yeah, get ready to answer this one. Edith Keeler. Who was Edith Keeler's principal romantic interest in Star Trek canon? A lot of people subscribing to everyone. Very good. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed to me, please do. And yeah, everyone knows this one. It's Kirk. Yes, in City on the Edge of City on the Edge of Forever. But yes, Edith Keeler is. They go back to the 1930s. She is the social worker. She's the one who delays America getting involved in World War II, and Kirk has to inadvertently make sure she gets killed. Played by legendary actress Joan Collins. And yes, that one is a definite Captain Kirk. You knew he had to make this list. Okay, here's a tricky one. But he's still a principal character. Okay, Irina Galiulin. And I probably butchered her name, which probably hasn't helped. Oh, by the way, no characters will appear twice. So, ooh, wow, I thought that one's gonna be tougher. Holy cow! Sean Innes got it. Chekhov. Irina Galiulin was in love with Chekhov. Tug also got it. Oh, Gary Carpenter said she was also in Batman. Which character did she play in Batman? I didn't. Teb Chekhov. He got it. Tug says the name was a giveaway. I was going to say it with a Russian accent, but I didn't. Brian Ponce, are we talking about? No, Brian. We're talking about Brian, my cousin Brian, folks. Everybody say hi to my cousin Brian. Brian, we're doing in a special Valentine's Day trivia game, which is almost over. we're talking romantic interest with principal characters. I'm naming a character, and you have to say which main character they were romantically involved with. And Brian, thanks for stopping by as always. Happy Valentine's Day, and be sure to pass that on to the rest of the extended family, our extended family. Yeah, everybody giving love to Brian. Awesome, thank you. Okay, number 5 of the Star Trek, Lieutenant Myra Romaine. Which principal Star Trek character was Lieutenant Myra Romaine romantically involved with at one time? Wow, Sean Innes, a true Trekkie. He got it right at the gate. Tug also get it. Daryl Johnson got it. Lance got it. I thought that one would be tougher. Oh, Gary Carpenter says she was the siren with the Riddler. Thank you. I did not know that. I honestly did not know that. Dan says, so who was the Ned's love interest in Deliverance? One of the Moonshiners, and ew. Sean, this is kind of sad, tricky. Yes, she's the one who was possessed by the alien entity, and Scotty risks his life to save her, and they think she's gonna kill him. Because I knew she wouldn't kill me. Yeah, so it's Scotty. Okay, you know what? I have a bonus question. I'm gonna throw this bonus question out to you. In TOS canon, that the original series, in TOS canon, Chief Hellman Sulu had a crush on what other bridge officer? This is a gimme. I don't even know. It's like don't wait for the translation. That's a gimme. But Dan says Kirk. Ha ha ha. Very funny. In real life, they can't stand each other. I knew that 40 years ago. I was at a Star Trek convention. Tracy actually went to one in Chicago. I saw when that same convention was in Boston. This actually might be anyway. A convention I went to many years ago had Sulu, and he talked about how he hated Kirk then. Oh, Rorito is here. Says greetings from Puerto Rico. Rorito, so glad you could make it. Thank you for joining us. Sadly, you missed the trivia game. I just finished it, bunch of you got Uhura. Yes, Uhura is the correct answer. Sean got it. Teb got it. Keithy got it. Superplex got it. Dan got it. Spock, very cute. Gary Carpenter got it. Tug says yes. Oh, and I'm going, but there's two pieces of evidence. There's two pieces of evidence. In Mirror Mirror, um, the alternate universe, Sulu is all over Uhura. But also, when I really should have made sure I had the list of the episodes I was referring to. There's one where they get infected by that virus that causes their inhibitions to go down, and Sulu is running all over the ship with a sword. He makes his intentions towards Uhura known there too. Apparently, he shows that he has this like underlying thing for her. Oh, a lot of people saying Yobin Rand. No, but that's a good guess. Tug says he didn't get to sing with Uhura like Spock did. Spock didn't actually sing. He just played his lyre. So Tug, don't be a liar. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. He did have an album, at least one. And remember, he sang that Lord of the Rings song, Bilbo Baggins, the greatest little hobbit of it. Yeah. Rorito says, I am here thanks to Dan. He recommended your page. I'm very glad he did. This is our special Valentine's Day edition, by the way. So I didn't have much planned except for the contest, which sadly you didn't make. But I'm very glad you could make it. And thank you for coming back, by the way. I remember you were here. Was it last week or the week before? But you were here recently, and I thank you for coming back. Gary Carpenter says, I went to my first Trek convention in Charlotte, North Carolina in 1993. I went to my first one in 84. Tug says, Dan is so incredibly nice. Isn't he, though? Dan says, greetings. Rory. Daryl Jones says, I'm right. You are wrong. Glove dropped. Superlook says Spock cried. He cried a few times, actually. Wajimine says, LOL Thrash. And an LOL to you, too, by the way. Jimmy Neutron says he sings better. Who sings better, Kirk or Spock? Spock. But it's not a wide gap. Marita says, good to see you all. Good to see you too. Rory. Gary Cameron says, DJ, two rights don't make a wrong. Sometimes it does. Uh, Rory says 2 weeks ago. Thank you. Zublik says Kirk knows the lyrics to I'm a rocket man. Although my favorite by him is Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man. No, I won't sing it. Gary Carpenter says Thrasher. Ouch. Oh, Did I hurt something? Double plus apologies if I did. Tug says, my first Trek convention was in the mid 90s, probably 95. Daryl John says, Spock need therapist. He certainly would, wouldn't he? John Bernstein says he was in the Bilbo movie in 1968. Why am I having trouble placing that? Lynch Steven says Bilbo Baggins. Yes, Bilbo Baggins, the bravest little hobbit of them all. I remember the cartoon. That had to have been later than 68, though. Um, so why am I having trouble placing the 68 version? Zublik says, what did William Shatner say to the Trekkies? Get a life, people. That actually, it's so funny. And I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but that was actually done in a Star Trek, bite my tongue, in a Saturday Night Live episode. They were making fun of Trekkies um, in an episode where Kirk, William Shatner, was the guest host. And I remember a lot of people were really offended. A lot of Trekkies thought that's how he actually felt. And I remember some of the fellow Star Trek co-stars were like, Bill, don't make fun of the Trekkies. They're our bread and butter. If you saw the SNL bit, you'd know the whole thing was done as a lark. Um, and it's funny if you've been to conventions, it shows stuff that actually happens. There's it's a question and answer, and of course, all the people are asking questions to basically show how smart they are. And one says, "Is it true you have 35 horses?" And Shatner stops for a second and says, "Including the colt that was born this morning." Yeah, I guess so. And of course, they ask questions about it in episode 35 and episode 68. And little secret stars don't remember episodes like the fans do. It's actually very funny. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. So I don't think he was actually being hateful, but the sad thing is, to this day, there are theories that he actually said that in actual context, that he really said "get a life" to some of his fans. Let's just see. Gary Cameron says Shatner was in the first match game. I did not know that. I did not know that. Daryl Jones says, I don't think he did say that. He did say it, but again, it was part of a Saturday Night Live sketch. He didn't say it in real life. So contextually, he did not say it. I guess you could say. Tug says TOS didn't have a ship's counselor, probably because none wanted to work with Kirk. Shannon says Nimoy did a music video for the Bilbo song. He and some groovy chicks dancing in sand dunes. Yeah, I saw that. Oh, this is crazy. Those backup dancers, the go-go dancers in that video, are my mom's age. They'd all be in their 70s now. Lynn Chafin says, loved In Search of with Leonard Nimoy. I loved it. I still refer to it from time to time. Now, Zublik says, I like Harvard Lampoon's parody of Lord of the Rings entitled Bored by the Rings. Gary Carver says, the cartoon version of The Hobbit. That was in 68? I had no idea it was that old. I thought it was in the early 70s. I saw it in like 78 for the first time. I think around then. Because I haven't read the books at that point. Tug says, ain't nothing wrong with making fun of Trekkies. Galaxy Quest is one of the greatest Star Trek movies, and I will die on that hill if need to be. A lot of the dialogue they got from Galaxy Quest actually came from documented back and forth between co-stars behind the scenes. I don't know the actual context, but yeah, uh, a lot of it is a lot of the stuff that was said in Galaxy Quest is actually like 100% real. Oh, remember the movie Trekkies? I love Trekkies. Great movie. Let's see what else we got going on here. Teb says, Thrash, what's the Mandela effect? Short answer, in the age we live in, as more and more people get together and reflect on nostalgic events, big events, we find that minor subtle details are different between two people. Um, Dan was just talking about this earlier on. He does an amazing video today. It's one of his comic book reviews on a Snow White comic. I believe he said from 1944. That's crazy. But in this version, the Wicked Witch says, "Magic mirror on the wall." Many people remember her saying, "Mirror, mirror on the wall." There are others as well. In The Empire Strikes Back, some people remember Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father." Most people remember him saying, "No, I am your father." And there's an actual theory, and I don't want to get too out there, but they theorize that at one point, scientists who were experimenting with alternate universes caused a rift, sort of like in Back to the Future, because everyone says, well, that would really suck for Marty McFly in Back to the Future because he would have grown up on a separate timeline. No, the timelines would zipper together. So, if anything, you'd have two sets of memories. Just they'd be a little vague in points where they overlapped. And so, what they theorize is some of us might be from different alternate universes, but we've all somehow been woven into here. Um, One of the kookiest ones I ever heard was there was a very short lived Saturday morning cartoon that may have lasted a season and a half. It was based on the Partridge Family, but it was set in the future. It was sort of the Jetsons meet the Partridge Family, and they had a futuristic dog and lived in a bubble house and yada yada blah blah blah. And I watched it as a kid and remember it quite vividly. But there are people who put their hands on Bibles and swear not only did they not watch it, but it was never on. And they theorize that people in universe A had this cartoon, universe B didn't, and when they zippered us together, some of us remember it and some of us don't. Now, I'm sure many of you are saying it's probably blowing this up in my comment section. It may have more to do with poor memory. Memory is not 100%. It's not like a recording device. Our minds embroider, skip over things. It's entirely possible that it's just a case of bad memory. But it's a fascinating premise that the reason people's memories are different is because they come from actually different planes of existence. And well, anyway, Tim, that was the short answer. I'm gonna see how many of you actually said, "Bob, shut up." Um, let's just see. You know what? No, I'm not even gonna bother. When I watch this in replay, I do watch my old stuff in replay, not because I'm a narcissist, but I like to critique my own work. So, oh, I will pick up here though with Tug. If I missed anyone else's comments and you want to repeat them, feel free to repeat. But Tug says, in Back to the Future 2, why does old Biff go to the same future as he goes back to give his younger self the almanac? Always bugged me. There are some huge plot holes in Back to the Future. Why does Marty McFly's mother also look like her paternal great grandmother? Those credits don't transfer. So yeah, when you start digging, Dan says if anybody watches the Flash TV series, you already get it. I don't, but I'll take your word for it. Lance Javen says if you build it, he will come. Not that they will come from Field of Dreams. Garrett Garmer says my favorite is Ricky Tikki Tavi. Oh, the old um cartoon what are they called? Classic cartoons, mostly narrated by Roddy McDowell. Let's see what else we could go in here. Tug says your memory is much worse than you think it is. I'm sure my memory is a lot worse than I think it is. And I think it's pretty bad. Tug says LOL Zuper. Gary Carver says bah humbug. Glenn Chapin says Zuper behave. Oh, did Zuper say something inappropriate at one point? Daryl says the voice does say at the end, they will come when they needed the money. Zuperlik says, give the credit to John Bernstein, unapologetic. Gary Carver says reincarnation. Ah, the instant milk. Tug says, okay, Zoop, credit to John Bernstein. Then Keithy says, if it comes back in time, please delete the last 5 minutes. Wow. I'm sorry if my pontification caused anyone to slip into an alternate universe. Jimmy Neutron says, old joke, what did Jeffrey Dahmer say to Lorraine Bobbitt? I'm going to skip that last part. I think you can see where it's going. Ziplik says, you caught up fast, T-Pawns. I tried. I skipped a lot. I skipped a lot. Tug says, what would you do if you could travel back in time? There's in Better Call Saul, there, uh, Walter White does a whole bit about that. He goes, you're playing the game wrong. Since time travel is physically impossible, you're just torturing yourself. What you're saying was, do you have any regrets? Because that's basically what you're asking yourself. What would you? What do you regret most? And that isn't necessarily something you did. What do you regret most about the world we live in? But I'm sidestepping the question, aren't I? If I could go back in time, to be honest, I probably wouldn't, because everything I've learned about the alteration of time from sci-fi greats and who might have questioned genius, it usually creates more harm than it does. Oh, John H is in the house. Says, "Hey, Thrash and all, only have a few minutes tonight." Well, I'm actually getting to the point where I'm thinking about wrapping up anyway. But I'm so glad you could make it. Thank you for joining us, such as you are, and happy Valentine's Day. My running joke is, if I could go back in time and find me about 30 years ago, I would tell myself, when a certain blonde comes back into your life and begs you to give it one more chance, slam the door in her face. Why don't we go with that? Teb says, what would you do if you could go back and meet your younger self? I think I just covered that. Dell Johnson says, unlearn what you have learned. Oh. Tracy Rothmeyer says, yikes. I'm not sure what Tracy is yikesing, but could be anything at this point. Uh, Doug says, Teb, I'd slap him and not explain jack squat. Pull a Mo Howard. That's for absolutely nothing. Oh yes, and Tracy, was it 84 we decided that creation convention was the one where we met Tom Baker? It occurs to me later, Sulu was actually another one. I think he was the second convention I went to, but Tom Baker was that first creation convention I went to. Gary Carpenter says, if I can, I'd go back to World War II and make it so the Axis would win. I'd like to think you mean make it so that we would win sooner with a lower death rate. But oh my gosh, speaking of which, any of you guys remember the old TV series Dark Room? It was one of those anthology horror shows similar to The Twilight Zone, hosted by James Coburn. There's an episode where a father and son are building an old radio, and somehow, and it's never adequately explained, somehow the father finds that the radio can actually pick up radio signals from the past. He's getting like baseball games from the 1941 and Walter Winchell and Edward R. Murrow reports and big band music. and he starts picking up Morse code, which he knew because, of course, he was a Boy Scout. Exposition. And he finds that it's actually a German sub, and we learn with him talking to his wife that his father was killed on a transport going over to Europe, and he thinks an American spy was telling the sub the coordinates of where to go to. And he becomes obsessed, and he builds a little transmitter, and he starts transmitting in German with his in-house Enigma machine. I don't know, but he starts transmitting to this German sub. The ship is not leaving on the 8th, it's leaving on the 10th. All night. And he wakes up, and as if by magic, his father's still alive, and this is great. And the father's like, "Yeah, of course I'm still alive. What are you talking about?" Anyway, he's like, "Oh, and by the way, you dropped this. Don't leave this lying around anymore. Someone could ask you for it." And it's his ID card. And the son's like, "What, I need this ID card?" And he goes, "Because you don't want the Gestapo to pick you up." And he looks out the window, and on the street corner, there are German guards. The implication being somehow this little thing he did to tweak it just so his father wouldn't get killed in the early days of the war has caused the Allies to lose the war. So you know what? Again, you don't want to tweak time. It's asking for trouble. See under sound of thunder. Ooh. See under sound of thunder. See under sound of thunder. I love it. Submit to Ray Bradbury. He's dead though. Well, go back in time and bring him back to life. Anyway, wow, I really went off the rails there, didn't I? Shannon says Dark Room sounds familiar. I'm always a sucker for Frequency with Dennis Quaid. I believe Dennis Quaid was loosely adapted from the same story. The name eludes me, but I would be a bit surprised because I remember seeing Frequency when it came out 25 years ago and thinking this is the same thing. In that theme of contact in the past, Tug says I'm amused at the thought that Dave popping in to see what's happening, and all he sees is Zuper asking about killing Hitler. I know, right? Zuper says Hitler is what Charles Manson asked to dinner. He did talk about Hitler in a crazy fashion too, didn't he? Tech says I'm a fan of the Kip Thorne theory of time travel. That if you can travel to the past, but nothing you did could change what happened because it already happened. He uses math to prove it. So basically, if you and I've seen this before, so if you go back in time, it's because you were meant to go back in time. It's all part of that time loop. So yeah, the easier question would be the Walter White scenario. What do you regret most? And what if you could change one regret, what would that be? Even something you didn't necessarily cause. Dilly Dan has given us another one of his links. Thank you so much. A lot of people talking about Manson asking Hitler for dinner, to dinner, as dinner. I don't know if Manson was actually a cannibal, although couldn't put it past him. But, oh, and Zublik says, what is the old phrase? Never expect a straight answer from a physicist. What's it with you people? You're always talking atoms, atoms, atoms. It's all you talk about. Everything in the universe is in atoms. Yes, it is. Sean Ennis says, Tug, that is a similar to Stephen King's 11363. May not have the date right. I know exactly what you're talking about, though. Tug says, I'd just want to see what the dinosaurs were like as long as I have full biosuit to survive the harsh atmosphere. Of course, Brian Aldiss did a short story about that, very similar to Sound of Thunder. You could go back into big game hunters were going back in time and killing dinosaurs. They don't worry about messing with the timeline. It's just not something that he picked up on this story. But he goes back to a primal swamp, and there's a brontosaurus in it, but instead of being this big, majestic, magnificent creature, it's already dying. It's this like sickly, apathetic thing rooting around for food in this like really gross, murky swamp, pulling up roots while it's actually defecating into it, and it's being really sickly, and it's riddled with parasites, and these birds are sort of like picking things off of it, and it's pathetic. And he ends up killing it not as a hunter, but almost to put it out of its misery. And as he walks away, the parasites that were on the brontosaurus now have nothing to feed on, jump on him and kill him. I don't know why I bothered to share that story with you. It just made me think of going back and looking at dinosaurs. Ah, yes, that was Tug mentioned a protective suit. Yes, if for no other reason than the insect life at that time could really, really ruin your day. Oh, thank you for reminding me, Tug. Gary Carpenter says there's a talk about the Pope having a time screen in the Vatican. Never heard that myself, actually. Suplik says, and a ray gun to zap the ravenous dinosaurs. Unapologetic geek. That too. That too. Neutron John says, Thrash. It does help me to come here and talk. I am so glad to be of service. I am so glad listening to my soothing voice is helpful to you. Neutron John, you're a great guy. I love those comics. I promise you. I promise you, I'm going to be start doing wretched recaps on them. Toot sweet. I have no excuse other than the fact that I've just been juggling a lot of stuff around the house lately. But be prepared. You will get content material. And I'm so glad you came by tonight. It's always great having you. Tracy Rosmeyer says, have a nice night, guys. See you soon. Tracy, thanks for joining us. Happy Valentine's Day. Take care of yourself. Tug says, there's an awesome book series by Arthur Conan Doyle and Stephen Baxter where aliens collect various people from various parts of Earth history and makes them live on a mixed planet. That sounds very, very familiar. Very, very familiar. Tug says they go into great detail as Clark and Baxter are wont to do. Yeah, I can imagine. Gary Carpenter says, Geek, they did that in a Superman comic. Daryl says, or what you bring into that time. Keithy says, lived in New Jersey. I think I could survive everything. Zubik says, LOL, Keith. Tug says, I don't know that, but I'm not surprised comics do everything. They certainly do, because they borrow from everyone. Daryl Johnson says, never saw that movie. Gary Carpenter says, they did that on Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Sean Innes says, sounds like Riverworld. Yeah, it does. It does sound like Riverworld, now that you mention it, where everyone is rescued on a alien planet. So the book says, I once lived in New Jersey, and darn it, if it were not for the third arm I grew, I would still be there. John Collins says, Bob, premise for a film, all the past Hollywood music in a neutral afterlife. In the beginning, they discuss, act upon their big egos, and then the film progresses. They come to the grips with their foibles. Love it. Tug says, okay, so instead of what you would do, what's your favorite time travel movie? The Time Machine. Hands down. It's not particularly faithful to the source material, but I love The Time Machine. It's just is an amazing movie. Favorite time travel show, Doctor Who, of course, of course. Second favorite time travel movie. Because there are others. I didn't like the remake of The Time Machine. But I have liked some. I keep coming back to The Time Machine. What was that one where they go to the future and John Hoyt is like he leads like this like group of survival people. Oh, what was that one called? And they're like these mutants outside that are trying to break in and they're trying to get their rocket to Alpha Centauri. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. But in any event, hey, folks, we're actually getting kind of on in the evening. I want to thank you guys for showing up. By the way, I know a lot of people couldn't make it tonight because they had plans. It is Valentine's Day, but for those of you who were able to make it, I want to thank you very, very, very much. Um, Tomorrow, Tug and Ian and myself will be doing MST3K, but I am going to be doing another live show on Thursday. And don't forget tomorrow night at 8:30, Dave Sundstrom is having his live show on, I believe it's on Steve Martin. So anyway, again, thank you guys all for coming by tonight. I had a blast. I always have a blast. And I'm going to keep doing these little trivia games in one format or another until I hit on the perfect blend. But anyway, until I see you guys next time, be good, be safe, be careful. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.